Hi, I'm Erin Burke, and I'm the Communications and Events Officer at the Scottish Civic Trust. And I'm here today with Mary and Jenna from the North Uist Historical Society for our video series on local heritage and civic groups in Scotland. So thank you both for joining me today. To begin, could you please give some background on your group and how it came to be?
Well, Falja vo Uist Tuath, a Gaelic greeting for you, because our society is very rooted in our local Gaelic language. And our society was founded in 1989 when groups of local people came together and brought in photographs because they felt there was a need to preserve a rapidly dying heritage. Water and electricity were really only coming to the island in the 60s. And so suddenly by the 80s, the way of life, the subsistence, water from the well, candles, tilly lamps, were disappearing fast. Television was accessible. Ceilidhs were slightly less frequent than they might have been. So the society collected, and its first venture was collecting photographs, which I think is wonderful, having come into it a bit later, because we have albums of wonderful photographs arranged by the different districts on the island. And we have a group of volunteers, again, initially funded through Museums Gallery Scotland, who've worked so hard on these albums and displaying them. Since then, our museum is in an arts centre in Lochmaddy, but we have very little room there for any activities, and so except in the evenings. And so we've recently bought a redundant school through the Scottish Land Fund. We were very successful initially with getting funding to buy it and for architects' plans from the Architectural Heritage Association. I may not have got that name quite right. We have, however, had considerable setbacks through levelling up this year and lack of success with the other fund dependent on us getting levelling up funding. So hence the need for some more marketing and consolidation and advice. But what we are strong on, apart from the volunteer group who work on the photographs, is probably on activities. And so we started with really developing our activities with a massive World War I exhibition, which was community-led, community-donated, and then digitized with the help of St Andrews, open virtual worlds. And I think St Andrews have probably helped us considerably with getting our messages out. And so we have also done working in schools. We've done a digitization version of St Kilda. We've looked at our own archaeological sites with 360 and again with children dramatizing Neolithic news and different kinds of information and drama. And we've looked at the geology of North Uist, and we've recently been archiving with St Andrews. Our exhibition has been on the music of North Uist. So really, our volunteer outreach activities have been quite widespread, quite dedicated. And our most recent funders, I hope I'm not going on too long. No. We've had an exchange with Barbados Museum on storytelling really, it's hard to fulfill the diversity of audience except in digital ways. And so our teenagers have film storytellers here, and Barbados teenagers have wonderfully written poem stories, enactments around artifacts from their collections. And we've unfortunately had bad weather here, COVID, teacher strikes. So although we've used all the funding, we're still, the art department at our local high school, we're finishing off the filming of our work. There was a delay there, but AIM have been very good in letting us finish the films after we've had all the funding. Because on an island, things are very much, we have a big issue about centrality, and one size never fits the island, as we're finding with accreditation at the moment. So the other project, which is ongoing, and in fact, we've just been granted a year's extension, is from the funders of the Wellcome Trust and the British Science Association, but it's the Ideas Fund for looking at the links between heritage and well-being, Gaelic well-being, and digital and well-being. So we've been working with 3 universities, which can be very complicated at times. And the community-led bit is quite hard to, with across 3 universities. That's it's not public engagement anymore. It's a whole new ball game, because it's actually changing the universities who see themselves as experts and needing to derive papers out of this, but saying, hey, change your language. The community needs to have this explained in a way that they can understand. And the community also needs to say, well, that doesn't seem relevant to us. Our needs are blah, blah, blah. So it's interesting, full of change and dialogue.
So it sounds like there's a lot of great things happening at the moment. Are there any other current activities or projects that you're currently doing that you want to touch on? I know that you have a festival coming up, if you wanted to share a bit about that.
Yes. Well, we just had a soft launch on Saturday. The weather was horrific. So I think we would describe it as quality attendance rather than quantity. But the level of discussion, Gaelic learning, interest in the community survey we've recently done, and a series of presentations that we've had. We've actually got something very important tomorrow night, which is a webinar on place names, something that came out of the survey. People needed those recording in Gaelic before they were lost. And so at 6:30 tomorrow night, we have a webinar on place names, hosted by St Andrews in this case. And then next week, the same time, same place, there's one on climate change, which emerged from our survey as a real concern amongst the community. The sort of Gaelic being lost is a big issue. I think there's a big issue too for the island about much more training needed in digital. Word of mouth is still more important And so we have a huge training issue, access issue to how the conservation of heritage and the Gaelic language works digitally. The other big concern is that our needs are not being heard either at local council level or national level. The survey was more designed to see, to test the water for well-being of Gaelic, well-being of heritage, well-being of digital. And we have some, I think, quite stunning findings there, which will guide us in the future, and possibly timely, as we haven't got the bid, to look at our space again and decide. It was actually your previous director, Susan O'Connor, who came across and gave us some mentoring when she worked for the Prince's Trust. And she set us brilliantly on our way. I think both our digital activities, well managed by St Andrews, and are important. But since the pandemic, I think there's an issue about volunteers. For instance, we all used to do shifts in the museum, but it's tiny, and so it's not safe to put us oldies into a tiny place without windows when there's still COVID about. Risk assessment means it's. So we have cut down our activities quite a lot. The festival is to try and engage in good weather, we hope, engage interest in, obviously the volunteer group, they open already 1 day a week since our previous digital festival, and they're doing great guns on the photographic archive. But we want to redo our walks, which proved interest. There was interest last year, and we've had a very small wellbeing group, but we're now trying to extend that on a Thursday afternoon and let it be completely community-led, what will, help. And then on Saturdays will be a Gaelic pop-up cafe. I mean, there will be English, but there'll be Gaelic tables and Gaelic conversation and a chance to learn a few words. So really, it's an intensive month for us.
Sounds like it.
I hope we're hoping, we've taken the decision to do it all by donation at the moment, because as Jenna will explain about our website and our different social media activities, we've had a few student placements in the past and one heritage apprentice 6-month placement, but they've been short term, and what we really need is something that is more, it's a big need to have something more continuous. But Jenna can speak a bit more about that.
So that all sounds really exciting. And I'll ask you now, Jenna, so how can people get involved and support you if they like what they're hearing?
Yeah, so one thing I would say, you just heard Mari talk about all the things that Cute do, which is lovely, and their name is Cute, which sounds cute and adorable. But it's so apt, because North Uist, having visited a lot of the islands in Scotland, North Uist is the most breathtaking place. With seals basking and the birds and the wildlife and the sand and the blue ocean, this blue sea and the sky. So North Uist is an incredibly beautiful place. What I'm doing is I'm supporting Mari and the trustees better share that beauty and the history and heritage of the island with the broader diaspora, but also the community and also those in Scotland who want to engage, because it's only an hour's trip from Uig in Skye to come and visit North Uist for the day or stay longer. So the work I'm doing with them is to make sure that people know about the festival, and you've been brilliantly helpful, Erin, at getting the festival out there. So the festival combines lots of activities and learning a little bit of Gaelic, but also with a weekly heritage walk to the beautiful archaeology of the islands, and it is stunning. So lots of Neolithic remains, lots of little duns on islands in the landscape surrounded by water. The first university in Scotland, you can come and visit that. And so what we'll be doing with the website is better presenting the archaeology and history and heritage of the island, which is so fundamental to the history of the islands and its role in the history of Scotland. But what we're hoping to do is better use social media to share and tell that story and get it better known out there. But then also seek to get support for CUTE and the hardworking volunteers who need that support through either volunteering, membership or donations, because that's what's really required. And if we can get that better built up, we can then start looking at developing the school as a major hub for the heritage and history of the island and bringing people together to learn about that history, but also maybe engage with some Gaelic. So that's how I'm working with Mari to help them do that.
Lovely. So I will put your website and social media pages in the description below the video. Am I right in thinking that if people are interested in volunteering, there's information for how to get involved on your website? Yeah.
There is.
Okay, lovely. Thank you both for your time today. It was lovely to speak with you. And viewers can learn more about civic and heritage groups in Scotland and how we support them by accessing our YouTube channel at Scottish Civic Trust and also visiting our website, scottishcivictrust.org.uk. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Erin.
you, Erin.